been Sternitzky and from Green Bay, like 15 minutes away. When I was at GB, I was part of Sheepshead for a few semesters.
What role?
Poetry staff, and I was published a few times. Worked really hard to get one of my poems in that my professor hated. Probably, I wrote songs in like first grade, but poetry probably 14. I remember writing one for class that was very teenage angsty, and it was terrible. I wrote a lot of very bad teenage angst poetry. Threw most of it out for emotional reasons, but I kept that first one as a reminder. A couple were salvageable. I was able to work on and make something good out of it. Second year at GB, the first time through, so it would have been like 05, 06. I took some creative writing classes and realized I was kind of good at it. So I switched my major and figured, hey, I could do this. Possibly it's not a very well-paying career, but as something different than just a hobby, I suppose. Started out doing short stories and then switched to mostly poetry, and that's about what I've been doing for 12 years. My first introduction to spoken word was Patricia Smith doing Skinhead, which was fantastic. Kind of brutal if you're not expecting it, but I also love Patricia Smith in general. She put out a book on Hurricane Katrina, a bunch of poems like chronologically through when it was about to hit landfall, through when it hit. And I think I've read that about 3 times through when I got it in the mail. Big fan of Raymond Carver's short stories, because it's very minimalist and I suppose raw. Poetry's a little different, but his short stories, love it. If I loan that book to people, I'm like, you have to be nice to this. You're lucky I'm letting you borrow it. George Watsky, also fell in love with him, is a little bit more hip-hop spoken word like Cujo's. I do like Cujo. I haven't seen Kenneth Appleton in a while, but he's got some good stuff. Dorothy Parker has very short, witty, hilarious things. And then sometimes people recommend things or I find random things that stick with me. I don't remember his name, but there was one it was a book called Deconstruction Myth, and the whole thing was poems about different creation myths. Like somebody made a lasagna, but there wasn't enough people, so he made people out of nails and put them in the fridge, and it was weird, and it was good. Or somebody made like a blue piece of paper and cut out a yellow piece of paper, and that was the sun, and then there was paper clips. I don't remember. I found it by accident at Half Price Books. Like, I need this. This is great. I'm not generally a fan of the current like Instagram nuggets of wisdom, but if it gets people to find other poetry, fantastic.
Right.
There's an online journal called Slam Chop. For their very first issue, my poem Diagnosis 295, which was a point of view about schizophrenia. I work with a lot of people in mental health, and some of us pick up parts of conversations. You're like, what's that like for them? So I wrote it and then I sent it in. I fully admit I don't send a lot of things in because they want fees that I don't have. I do have a book I self-published on Amazon a year ago. It's called Past Tense. I'd like to see it go beyond Amazon, but I know it's a slow process, and I don't know very many writers that are fully confident either in reading or writing or sharing, but it would be nice to get it outside of the city. Even just a few years ago, really you'd only see poetry on campus, and it's very family friendly, and I don't write very family friendly things, so it's nice to see it in public places that is being appreciated. I've never really been a stage person. I'm not nervous on stage as much anymore, but like doing skits in school was like the bane of my existence. Somebody like, let's do a skit. I'm like, hey, you. Like that artsy weirdo that it's just overly flowery. It doesn't have to be that. I mean, there is that out there, and some people like it, some people like the rhyming, but there's so much more to it. There's such a wide variety. I've always liked the stuff that, like, hits you in the gut, that sticks with you. I believe Cujo could vouch, but he referred to me as underrated as fuck once, because I tend to write just raw. I don't dress up my words much, but I can make it work, and I think that it should be relatable to people. And I've had people come up to me after readings at spoken word, like, I liked yours the best, I could relate to it. Like, hey, thanks. I write for myself, but hoping that other people will enjoy it too, because poetry doesn't have to be the classroom stuff that everybody hates and nobody can understand.
You're sharing truth with people.
Yes.
So it's a social experience.
Mm-hmm. Other people writing what maybe you don't know how to say. Same thing with lyrics. It is getting a lot, even in the last 3 years. Has gotten so much better. We have Untitled Town. The fact that even Cujo has spoken word nights, otherwise you'd never find it outside of the university. And I don't want to knock university poetry, but some of it's pretty bad. I wrote pretty bad college poetry, and it tends to be family friendly. And like Barnes & Noble used to have readings, but you gotta be family friendly. Did a few open mics at Art Garage. It's nice that people listen and you're not just squeezed in between bands, like somebody cares. It's nice to be heard above the beer and the football sometimes.
And you feel like poetry community is growing though?
Mm-hmm. Feels like it. I mean, every time I go to Pepper, group's getting bigger, which is kind of nice. So I recently finished this one. Some new shit. Took a long time to work on. I had some wicked writer's block going on, but I forced myself through it. I like to play with words a lot. I do blackout poetry too, mashups of lyrics. I did a couple using metal band names and emo band names. This one, just for lack of a better title, is Antithetical Alphabet. I'm not a poet with a capital P. Poser punk prophet penning perfectly pitiful personal prose, pushing past painful memories. Practicing patience, precariously pairing parasites under pressure and paving a path to power. Pummeled by panic and paralyzed, I need a painkiller, or a prophylactic. Pondering my plight and picking pockets for peppy pills, it's a prickly puzzle proven preposterously potent. I was academic once, an ardent adolescent amateur actually, arduously articulating authenticity with no apology, acquiring awareness, alarmed and appalled at the abrasive antics of human animals. I blabbered on about broken brains and bold-faced lies. Brandishing a ballpoint, I balked at the ballot. Pretentious professor tried to banish me, refusing my brand, preferring the bandwagon. A barbaric bard bargained for a bankroll, then went bankrupt, battling basic bitches for clicks. Cancel your campaign, you can't concede with this campy circus charade. There's a compulsive conspiracy of cells to convulse, claustrophobic in my own skin. I'm consistently careless in my consumption of companions with cooties. Clumsy conversation is crippling me like cancer. Potential publication, accomplishment, legacy. These delusions are debilitating. I'm desperate to disguise my despair. I'm daft on the daily, a damned Debbie Downer, daring to be dateless and dance alone in the dark. Drenched in doubt, I've developed a deviance, diligent in dodging dogma. I may be destined to dwindle to dust, but I decline to decay, to give way to disease. I'm determined to destroy this distress, to detonate these deceptive doldrums. Despite each effort at eloquent elocution, I am in essence eccentric, eclectic. Ecstasy eludes me, eternally melancholy. I exhale exhaustion, editing my edges, eager to eradicate erratic emotions etched in flesh. Folded into flags handed out at funerals, you're faced with flushing out fear. Furious and frantic, forget feeling like the fall guy. I fancy a fast farewell. Fasten your seatbelts. This fatal fatigue is about to facilitate failure. The fate of your fabricated fable is not for the faint-hearted. The great greed for greenbacks gleams from glossy pages, ghosts gambling on a ghastly game. I'm a godless Gentile gallivanting through the graveyard, a glutton for gaffes, a girl grappling for goals, gaining a groove. The grief from my guts is garish and glowing, a genesis is gestating, gears grinding into glass and gore. My heart's a homeless, hopeless romantic, a heart without a home. The hurt is harrowing. Behind the haze of hate, there's humility and humanity. Hang up the humbug, ignite the idle idiot. This is important. I'm anything but innocent or ignorant. I've incited an impossible journey, a jackass jinx at a juncture, jittery from judgment. I'm jaded and jealous, but keen and kindly, though killjoy kin keep kicking us off kilter. Knock knock. This is a knockout. It's not onomatopoeia, wouldn't want to be ya. Trying to read this and see the hidden meaning behind the twists and turns of verse and words, it hurts, I'm sure. I'm a lollygagging professional procrastinationist. A lackadaisical daydreamer with an imagination like a gazelle, wild as the adventures I took while sitting in my armchair, book laid flat in my lap. I'm no street kid. I've got no street cred. Shit, son, I'm a lowly, low-class lover of literature longing for illumination. Mankind is a macabre malady, master of the madhouse, marching toward mania, and marathons of massive massacres, no match for the military masks of death. Maybe it's the way I was raised. Maybe it's the chemicals in my brain, but I don't see adventure out there. I see terror I can't explain. Misery needs order, publicly question ranks. I'm sure this underbelly understands being vilified, while whites extol their extravagance and extirpate the yellow, brown, black, and red. They yammer on in their exclusive yelling zones. Don't you know, real eyes, real lies, but they can't always properly articulate or enunciate. This one is Glory, Glory. It's not a secret that I hate Trump. So sometimes when I'm just overwhelmed with things that I try to avoid, that it's just when you can't, I write. I try to figure it out, what I'm thinking. Big fan of Green Day, big fan of Anti-Flag, System of a Down's early stuff. I wrote one shortly after we found out that Trump was president, and I didn't know, like, God, what are we doing? I think this is somewhere in the last year or so. When I can't handle the news about whatever war we're fighting now, I can just turn it off. I can look away because I have that luxury. I can settle in on my couch in my heated apartment and watch hours of forensic files about the solving of murders that have a motive, and binge on Law and Order with easy, tidy endings where the bad guy always gets got. These are grisly, senseless crimes because they are not sanctioned by patriotic duty. The flag is a blindfold for many, but the TV is for so many more. Blind to death that isn't scripted, and the real-time screams on mute. We can't do anything about it anyway. It isn't happening here. The monuments to the dead are offensive to a man and people who can't comprehend their own brutality. I imagine it's so much worse than I could ever imagine. Families' flesh and mind obliterated by friendly death fire. It's not murder when we do it, it's collateral damage. But they only show a sanitized version, artfully photographed to elicit grief, and pointing the finger at the wrong enemy. It's all too much. Let's watch Oprah, The Bachelor, Netflix and chill. The pop 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 of Call of Duty and Black Ops drowns out the sound of bombs dropping. They're playing war for real. They're playing war for pay. I can only look away when he says he's doing this for us, that it's for security, to protect our great way of life. But it's the tantrum of a toddler president who's been sitting in a shit-filled diaper since he crawled out of whatever hole he came from. And since you can buy love on the internet, the First Lady is his trophy, his achievement. He never has to work for anything. He just takes it and grabs it by the... And they let him, because when you're a star, they just let you. Stars so rich they don't even have to take a dump. They can pay someone to take the shit right out of their rump. You know who it rhymes with. He probably shits quarters like a slot machine, which he feeds into the mouths of hungry brown kids, lining them up to receive communion on their acid-burned tongues, and he makes them thank him for saving them from themselves. Here's some paper towel to wipe the tear-gassed eyes for those in the back. The president has a brilliant display of plumage, swinging his dick for the third worlds to see. A superior production of testosterone poisoning we're expected to applaud. What are we celebrating? Glory, glory, hallelujah. Mine eyes have seen the coming of the American world. The way we force freedom at the barrel of a gun. The way we destroy the oceans and creatures of earth. The way we bob for babies in trash-filled dumpsters. The way we justify our laws of hatred in the name of Christ's word. The way we disintegrate our humanity for clicks and likes and viral status. Lady Liberty stepped off her island last week to drown herself in the tears of Ellis Island when setting herself on fire didn't work. Liberty is lost on the ones who built their empire with silver spoons. Give me your overly medicated, your filthy rich, your billionaires yearning to buy everything, the glistening elite sitting astride their paranoia-built wall. I lift my lamp beside the golden door and see the homeless, wretched refuse you stacked as corpses at my door. We are supposedly guaranteed the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Unless, of course, your kind of happiness and your method of pursuit are different than mine, then it's evil and must be banned. And because you are evil, you no longer have the right to life. We will not protect you or your liberty. You are not permitted the same kind of liberty as me and are thereby guilty until proven innocent. No one is innocent. No one is free. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Might makes fright. The earth is gutted, gutters of salt and blood and oil, covered with fields of daisies and cannonballs. Look in the mirror and see only a stranger. You think you must be in danger. Words scrawled in the steam. Red rum, don't you know no one will hear you scream? How long will you stand still here and watch the world stream across the bottom of your Insta-feed? How long will you stand for the volume being stuck on full blast? There's always someone new to hate, something new to divide us, something new to give us outrage, some big media distraction to keep us from talking, from speaking out, because you can't fight back if you're placated with daily entertainment and instant gratification, and they can't testify to the casualties if we've burned out their eyes, if we cut out their tongues as a consolation prize. The future's on red alert, the present is in amber, hijacked by the politicians, presidents, big media, thrown in the back of the big van with blacked out windows. The big new threat, ourselves. War is progress, is freedom. I see humans, but no humanity. Humans in common. It needs to burn so you know it's healing. In the desert sand, blood turns to rubies in the sun. Scoop that shit up, it's the prize we've won in this TV game show. We are the dispossessed, wandering and wanderlust, with dictated bloodlust, just another dead boy on the pile. We chew the war with our dinner and slit our wrists to feed the oil rigs and fill the old men's pockets. Maybe this is the last act before the final curtain. I'm terrified to see how dark it can get. Glory, glory. Hoist the flag and raise it high. What are we celebrating? Jen Sternitzky, and happy Poetry Month. Read poetry, it's good. Do it.